Microphone on. We are getting there. It is happening. Hi, everyone. Game Wizard coming in with their 8 months. You can just say hello, Aaron. Thank you so much for your 8 months of support. You're here listening. You're in the chat. We're talking Six of Crows. I got a little thing there that indicates what we're doing. I'm just trying to set up a browser source, but I'm going to make that Gory's problem. Gory, can you, for the love of God, find my, I think it's in Discord Stream Kit, but I just need a browser source because as soon as I put that in, everyone who talks in the Discord, their little icon will pop up so everyone will know who is talking at any given time. In saying that, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 participating members of the Geek Bomb Book Club community who've read this book. We're going to be talking about it, parts 1 to 3 of Crooked Kingdom, which is the second book in the Six of Crows duology. I am still trying to have everything open in the one screen and failing miserably for that one. Thank you, Gory. Appreciate it. A little bit about, even in my notes, it's got the wrong name, Crooked Kingdom. So we have already covered Six of Crows, and if you haven't seen those, if you look at the videos that should be available here, it's 4 hours of conversation about the first half of the book where we went into details about the character, and then the second half of the book where it was like sort of the character development, the plot, seeing that through, and a lot of emotional conversation. So now we are talking about Crooked Kingdom. Now that we know these characters and love these characters, this will be very, very fun. A little bit of a synopsis for this one. Kaz Brekker and his crew have just pulled off a heist so daring, even they didn't think they'd survive. But instead of divvying up a fat reward, they are right back to fighting for their lives. Double-crossed and left crippled by the kidnapping of a valuable team member, the crew is low on resources, allies, and hope. As powerful forces from around the world descend on Ketterdam to root out the secrets of the dangerous drug known as Perem, old rivals and new enemies emerge. Oh, thank you. What? We got a hype train. Emerge to challenge Kaz's cunning and test the team's fragile loyalties. A war will be waged on the city's dark and twisting streets. A battle for revenge and redemption that will decide the fate of magic in the Grisha world. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much, Terry, for subscribing for your 9th month, which is amazing. Everyone, or a lot of people who are on comms, as I'm going to say, they're actually chatting in the chat as well on Twitch, which will be really cool. In my head, there were lightning strikes nearby when reading this. Ooh, okay. And thank you. Yes, new headphones. I thought these were a lot of fun. So my neko, which is Japanese for cat. Thank you, Gibson. Oh, you're in here. Hello. I need a third screen. That's how this is going. I don't know where to put my. Oh, you got the streamer kit. Cool. Copy message link. Browser source. Update it. Let's go. KP Dubs is doing a bit of a bit. No, that didn't work. Ah, no. I have to sign in somehow. Bugger. That's not it. Eek. I don't know why that's not working. Copy link. Do I have to sign into it somehow? Browser source. I guess that's what the issue is. I'm just furiously clicking a lot of buttons. I just really want everyone to be able to see who's chatting. I think that would add to this. While I'm furiously figuring all of this out, let's go. If you're looking, we'll go alphabetical order in the Discord, starting with Avery, saying a little bit of a hello, how you're finding this book so far in a general sense, if you are liking it more than Six of Crows. Avery, over to you to say hi. What are you thinking of it so far?
Hey everyone. I actually finished this book, so I'll be trying my best to keep it to the first 3 sections. But I really, really like this one, and I thought that the way that it ties into everything that happened in Six of Crows is just beautiful, and it just like the way it just picks up and just takes off right away. I just think that it's done really well, and yeah, I really enjoy it.
Okay. We're up. We're happening. Yes, I got this browser source. We did it. Thank you, Gory. Appreciate that. I'm not even mad, Avery, that you finished this book. I'm not even mad. I listened to this whole book through, or the first 3 parts, because we're covering parts 1, 2, and 3. I listened to them through twice, just in case I've missed anything, but to go over it and just get all the details. Hey, Lonnie, thank you so much for swinging by. And I could have kept listening to it, and this is all I'm thinking about. And even when we were supposed to be doing Princess of Mars on Nerdist Book Club, I just wanted to keep reading this. So I hear you, and I am very much known for reading ahead, so I say no harm, no foul. Clever Girl, what are you thinking? Same question.
Oh, I love this book so much. I actually read it a while back. I'm about halfway through Rule of Wolves now, but the twists and turns just kind of, I couldn't stop reading.
Okay, well, we've got another one, not only reading ahead, finishing this book, but moving on to the next one. That's fantastic. All right, well, as long as you can remember what happened in the first half of this book, we're going to be doing A-OK. And I am so excited to do the next duology after this as well. I don't know. I'm like so heavy into the Grishaverse, and I'm dragging everyone along for the ride with me. Oh my goodness. KP Dubs, thank you so much for gifting 5 subs to Geek Bombs community. D's89, True Scorn. Hey, Chris, you got a sub, my man. Main Ogre, Sprinkles, you got a sub as well. And Minddrift88. I don't know, Chris or Jimmy, if you're there and you want to say thank you because you just got gifted a sub. Woohoo!
Thank you very much for the gracious gift.
Look at that. Oh, what a fantastic community happening. And then Chris says, thank you kindly in the comments as well. Aaron, over to you. How are you finding this book? And have you read ahead, I guess, is the question I need to be asking.
I actually did not, because just before the stream started, I literally just finished part 3, the last bit we had to get to, because work, and I'm working, like, because I work at a call center, so I'm, like, trying to read in between calls, and whenever a call comes in, I'm, like, quietly angry. It's like, how dare you interrupt me while I'm reading this great book?
Well, at least you've got it just in time, and it's going to be fresh in your mind, which is good as well. All right, loving that. Gibson.
Hey, so I have finished this book. Actually, Kat recommended this trilogy to me a little while ago, and I kind of just devoured this book the way that I haven't since I was a small kid, like a little kid. And I think I like this one a bit better than the first. Just a lot of scenes from this book stuck out in my mind a lot stronger than in the first.
Okay. Oh, okay. Interesting. I like that. Kat, you are very influential in this book club, which is great. And you've jotted in a few quotes already in the doc, but how did you find this book? And you've read ahead, obviously.
Yeah, I read it a while back. I honestly truly think each of Leigh Bardugo's books are better than the previous one, so I guess I would like this one a little bit more than Six of Crows, but I still think they're both fantastic as a piece of work together. It's almost hard to put one above the other because they're together.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, I get it. It's we're telling a whole story in like 2 parts. Well, technically, 12 parts, but I hear you on that one. Chris, did you want to comment, or did you want to jump on and tell me your thoughts? I'll check the chat. Kate, same question. Kate, are you there? Just seeing if you're reading it.
Kate's in the Twitch chat.
Oh, there it is.
They can't talk out loud right now.
Thank you. I already read Six of Crows, but I hadn't read this one yet, so I'm really loving my first journey with it. Yay, I love that. Gory Kills, thank you so much for making Lonnie feel welcome. And Lonnie, thanks so much for dropping the bits before as well. And the cartographer, Michelle, is in the chat saying, just popping in to say, hiya, book friends. I won't be chatting much as I'm catching up on work this evening after being on vacation last week. Also, I read the whole book. Oops. Where did you go? That sounds so cool. I love that you went on vacation. That's a lot of fun. And yeah, okay, read the whole book. I think Rachel actually is going to be dropping by as a guest on next week's show as well, because she's read the entire book, can't make this one, but is really, really keen to talk about this. I know that Seb's not here. Jimmy, what did you think of this book? What would you rate it?
Hello. My rating?
Yeah.
I would say it's 5 out of what's that? I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, how are you finding it so far in comparison, and have you read ahead?
Oh, well, I did read the whole book.
Yeah.
I was just like, I can't stop now. What's wrong with me? I need to keep going. But very similar to what the other people were saying, it was very seamless in its continuation. It was just like it didn't miss a beat. It just went keep going, and it really built upon the verse, as it were. 5 out of 5.
Loving it. Lauren, are we going to get you in here? I'm reading this for the 3rd time, a little behind. I only made it halfway through chapter 14 before this, but I love this book so much. I'm still feeling all the feels that I did before. These are some of my favorite characters. I agree with that one. Kate, have you read ahead, or is it just myself and Aaron who are the only two that have only read the first part of this book? Begrudgingly, but... Okay, you haven't read ahead either. Whew! All right, so we've got 3 people that can check others just in case there have been overshares. Oh, hey there, Rick. How are ya? How's Australia going? Yeah, you forced yourself to stop. Same. I actually refinished my listen again sort of like a couple of days ago, and I'm like, what am I going to read in the interim? We got a level 3 hype train, by the way. So anyone who... What did we get? We got a dog? Hype, yes, please. All right. Okay. We have the willpower to resist. I mean, that's just random for us, though, because it's usually not me, and I would have read ahead. So let's get stuck into a little bit about this book. I just read the synopsis, but I want... Oh, my gosh. I need 4 screens. This is getting redonk. A little bit about the author. Again, Leigh Bardugo is the author of the New York Times bestselling Shadow and Bone, which she released in 2012, Siege and Storm in 2013, Ruin and Rising in 2014. That was the first, kind of like the trilogy in the Grishaverse. 6 of Crows came out in 2015. And then, of course, we have Crooked Kingdom, which is the second in that duology, which we are covering. She was born in Jerusalem. She grew up in Los Angeles and graduated from Yale University. She's worked in advertising, journalism, and most recently, makeup and special effects. She's in Hollywood, and apparently she's in a band. What a legend. That's really cool. So I tried my best to break this up into part 1, part 2, and part 3 from memory. So I'm going to kind of go over some of the plot points that we were introduced to, and then we'll focus on the character things. So maybe plot points that we missed out, but it was more about sort of the character development, because when we have each chapter from a particular perspective, it progresses the plot, but it really also doubles in as learning more about the character. And can I just tell you, parts 1 and parts 3 were hella Wylan heavy, and I understand why. It's because we're getting his perspective for the first time, which we never really got. He was more of like a sneaky character in the first one. He's very much a part of the 6 of Crows now. Question to the chat and to the talkers. Who's listening to the book? Is anyone listening to the book? Just me? All right. I hate to break this to you, but the narrator doing Wylan... Oh, you are? Lise, you are? Lisa, I think I called you Lauren before. I'm terrible with L names. I really apologize for that. That is not my best moment. Kat, you said you're so bad at focusing to audiobooks. I hear you on that. That's why I have to listen to it twice. So Wylan's narrator said Matthias, and I think mispronounced another name as well, and that was bothersome for me, and I just didn't really like... Oh, Michelle, you're listening as well. Did you... I know you are, because every time Matthias does a chapter, I think about you, and it's like, hello, having a good time again. It is Matthias. And I was like, yeah, that baritonal voice. Yeah, I don't like Wylan's narrator. It just takes me out a little bit. I think Kaz is really well done. Inej is voiced by the same woman who did Shadow and Bone, so that's super familiar and lovely. Nina is voiced by the same narrator, Elizabeth Evans, who's done all of the Glass of Throne novels. Avery, you struggle with audiobooks too, huh? Yeah. So the first part, like the big Wyland thing, is that he's now undercover. He's on a mission, and he immediately kind of discovers that everyone sees this as a job, and he's not coping as well with it. So I want to open up the chat. Have a chat with me. If you've got thoughts about Wyland and learning a little bit more about him, Kate says protect him at all costs. Do you agree with that? Are you liking him as a character? How are you finding his adjustment? Who wants to chat about that? Let's talk Wyland. Anyone?
I don't
Go, Kat.
I don't have a ton to say. I think I like him as a character a lot. He has a special place in my heart, and I absolutely agree with Kate. Protect him at all costs. And I just love his interactions with all of the crows, but specifically Jesper, obviously. I enjoy learning about his story, all of his backstory, I guess, before the crows.
Yeah, I mean, we learned at the end of Six of Crows that obviously he was dismissed, ostracized, disowned by his father. And you kind of understand, like, before that, like, Jon Van Eyck, we didn't really understand him as a villain or as an antagonist. It was like, you disowned your son because he couldn't read. That to me wasn't deep enough. Like, I didn't really understand it. And so we're really looking at why he was disowned, how that went about, and who Van Eyck truly is. And I think that that was really well done. And you have to remember that this is a guy who was raised with privilege and then discarded. But Jesper was the only one who, like, he grew up on a farm, but Kaz has been on the streets for a long time. Nina got Grisha training, so she was at the academy where, as we know from Shadow and Bone, you are completely spoiled and treated like royalty and really looked after there. But I mean, we're not having the same thing. Like, Nina's very used to, sorry, I have to hydrate. Oh, and hello, Naraya's saying, oh my God, it's Maude from Sourcefed. Yeah, she's still around. I'm still talking about nerdy shit. This is the book club that I do every Wednesday night. But Nina is just a lot more, she acclimatizes so much better. She just adjusted, whereas Wyland is really, really struggling to remove the silver spoon from his mouth in a way. But it's just interesting seeing everyone's backstories. Like, Inej was kidnapped and sold. So everyone's got like a really different view on it. Matthias was a soldier and very narrow visioned. So it is interesting to see Wyland in this game plan and just struggling. Like, there's a few moments in the first half of this book where if something's not going smoothly, especially when it's around Jesper, like when Jesper put his guns up to try and keep Schmidt at the table, as that's what the job was, he bursts out uncontrollably. He's like, no! And they're like, dude, you're going to shut up. That's not part of the mission. And then, of course, with Colm, who is Jesper's father, who's like, what's the story? What's happening here? And Jesper's like, and he's like, oh, I'll tell you a lie. It's like, Wyland, sweet boy. He's just too green at all of this. But yeah, straight out the gate, we have a job that's happening. They have to get and infiltrate into this lawyer, Van Eyck's lawyer. His name's Schmidt. I forget the first name, Constance or something like that. The Schmidtmeister, I could tell you. Cornelis Schmidt has all of Van Eyck's sort of properties, knows where his money is being distributed, has all of like his business ventures and details and paperworks and contracts. He's got all the information at his house. And so they have to keep the lawyer at the table betting and playing games of cards. And of course, Jesper's the plant there. And Nina's the plant to also be a seductress and keep him at the table also. While Matthias and Wyland and Kaz infiltrate Cornelis Schmidt's house. And I love this. I love heists. I love the game plan. I love that it's so not simple. Like, you've got the fact that you've got to keep him there, yes, and then the estate. There's dogs. Well, how are we going to take care of the dogs? And it's like, well, he only feeds them in the morning. Is that going to work? No. What else are we going to do? The whistle. How do we get the whistle? Da da da. And you've got to kind of like think about every case scenario and have plans B's, C's, D's, as we've all known. And then code black, I believe, which is the yikes, we're all going to die. I just like this part, and I think Leigh Bardugo does a really good job and is super clever thinking about heists and these plans. And so far we're only halfway through the book, and already there've been 3. There's getting the information from Cornelis Schmidt. There is getting Inej back, and that twist, and that not being a simple matter at all as well, and having a plan for that. And then how they're going to get their $30 million that Van Eyck originally was supposed to give them, and how to destroy his reputation completely. Yes, Game Wizard, Inception level heist, where it's plans within plans within plans. I love all that kind of stuff. Sprinkle says the gambling scene reminded me of the show Ozark. Yeah, that's a slippery slope for Jason Bateman and his character. Miss Necromancer, the scene where he just cried uncontrollably and openly after he found out about his mother was also wonderful, because it's not something that any of the other crows would do, even if they had reason to, especially in front of others. I'd like to talk about that, actually. And you said that there was a wall of text before as well. Oh, he's the most innocent character, which makes him a lot different from the others. He could have, and most people would have, lost that kind of innocence, considering the childhood that not only his mother dying, but his father's abuse and his own feelings of inferiority because of learning about his disability. But he didn't let those things crush his kindness. I agree. I really like that. It's harder to be kind in the face of cruelty than to match its cruelty. Oh, I love that. When you're allowed to chat, please jump on. I'd love to talk about this. It actually prompted a thought that I had, and I can't remember who I was talking to, but I kind of just dropped it on them. And that was understanding sort of like vulnerability, coping mechanisms, emotional reactions and responses, and being able to outwardly project emotions instead of keep them in and suppress, has to come from privilege in a way, because he's able to express his emotions. He's actually really quite emotional. He has a panic attack at one stage in this as well. And I'm noticing that, how does Inej deal with things? Suppress, move on, detach. How does Jesper move on with things? He runs into danger. How does Kaz deal with his emotions? He barely ever talks about them at all. How does Nina deal with her emotions? Humor. How does Matthias deal with his emotions? He looks at Nina's cleavage. Like, everyone has their own coping mechanism. And I found it really interesting that Wyland's was differentiated so much, and that is through sort of like his privileged upbringing, I believe. Because when you're on the streets from such a young age, you cannot show that kind of vulnerability, because that kind of vulnerability gets you killed. And the person who's been on the streets in this book the longest, Kaz. The person who is absolutely trying to deny any particular type of vulnerability ever is Kaz. And that's this street sort of mentality, and it's a survival technique, really. But because I've dropped that bombshell in the chat, who wants to have a conversation about the emotional responses that we see between the 6 or 7? Is it 7 now? In the book. Do you agree with my statement? Yes, Jimmy.
Sorry, I just muted myself for a moment there. But what I was wanted to add to the conversation was with, I believe, Wyland, right?
Mm-hmm.
The little kid?
Mm-hmm.
Wyland. Yeah, see, it kind of reminded me as well of being a child. Now, I didn't live on the streets or anything like that, but my upbringing was a little strange. And I always remember, like, my father being like, oh, don't cry, and if you do, I'm going to hit you, kind of things and stuff like that. But I just remember thinking to myself as I was getting older that, that it's not the best example, like Wyland learns, even though the people aren't like the most pristine people, he learns how to be a better human being from them. And, I hope this is making sense, but that's my take on it.
Okay. I think you're emulating a lot of what Kate's been saying as well, where it's like what you're taught, you usually mirror that. So if you're shown cruelty, you'll mirror that cruelty, but he's actually opted to persist with his kindness, and that's what sets him apart. Avery, did you want to expand with what you've just typed in the chat?
Yeah, so we were talking about how Kaz is like the most armored, and he does not let down any emotions. And we saw at the end of Six of Crows, like he glanced at Inej, and Van Eyck knew immediately that that's who he had to target. And Kaz blames himself for that, and he thinks that those emotions are a weakness. So after towards the end of Six of Crows, he was like, I want to try to like be better for you. And now he's like, no, I can never do that because it got you hurt and I cannot see you get hurt. And he would much rather build up his armor to protect her than to actually have her in his life.
And it's like, you can't be like, no, it's going to be worth it, because that's what he truly believes is the best thing. But it is like really analyzing and assessing what vulnerability is, and Kaz truly thinks of it as something that can be used against him and the people that he loves and cares about, because it has happened, as you said, at the end of the last book. Yeah, but it was really interesting, sort of like, and this is a great example of the writing from Leigh, which is this show and don't tell, and that's describing Wyland's panic that he experienced, not really being able to breathe, be quite flustered in the moment, not really sort of being able to cope at that particular time, processing too many thoughts at once, and it's sort of exacerbating. Like, it was really interesting to see that, but also like his innocence, like he's just so sweet and innocent. But I also love, I'm going all over the place here, I love Jesper, the way that Jesper shows very sweet ways of affection, like, flipping the backpack strap or complimenting his hair, things like that. And I think what we've learned about Jesper more and more is that looks are not or an exterior or what someone looks like really is not, it doesn't weigh anything to him at all, which is interesting because he's got mixed race parents. Like his parents are different races, which means he is mixed race. And I think that that's an interesting sort of look where he keeps forgetting that Wyland's shoe, and that can be like, and Wyland keeps forgetting his shoe as well. But then you've got the shoe being more of an antagonist in this book as well as like a curveball character. So we're introduced, like, let's kick it off from the very start. We're back in part 1, using the same formulaic design. We are experiencing chapter 1 through a character we've never met before and might not really come in contact with again, but to build sort of where we're at in the story in this instance. And in this time, it is Dretvenko. So he's an unknown character, but we realize pretty quickly that he's a squalor. He has been in Ketterdam. He is a freelancer. What do we call that in the non-creative world? Like mercenary for hire. And he's about to pay off his debt, and that's all he needs. He just needs a few more jobs before he can get back out there. This guy's unlikable instantly. Like, he talks about the fact that he's killed sort of women and children, but it was the war. You also learn about sort of like where there was a quote in here saying that the young king was said to be handing out pardons like penny candy, eager to rebuild the Grisham military that had been just decimated by the war. So it's like, really kind of laying that foundation and understanding that Nina's not or technically Jesper as well, they're not the only Grisha in Ketterdam. But then this shoe character with wings fights him, and he thought it was over money, and it's not. He realizes that the souped shoe, as I'm calling them, were after him. So really doubling down on the reputation and the purpose of the shoe. And I want to talk really quite openly and real about this. The shoe are really described to, dark hair, almond eyes, gold-colored eyes as well. And so it's likely that they are sort of designed based on sort of like the Chinese or Mongolian heritage there. But more and more when we find out about the shoe, it's like, oh, the Fjordans, yeah, they're witch hunters. But the shoe, not only do they not allow Grisha and will kill them or capture them, but they experiment on them. And they are also like really kind of using the war to expand territories, but in a savage sort of way. And so more and more they're depicted as like really, really not, like they're not as like, the Fjordans aren't as bad as them. And I wanted to talk to you about that. How do you feel about sort of like a race that seems to be based on a race of today being so negatively portrayed. Does anyone have any thoughts on that? Cat.
I would
Go ahead.
I mean, oh, sorry. I would argue that, the Fjordans also you know, they capture and whatever with Grisha, but they also use them as well, to make their things, and especially with the Jurda Parem, they were involved with the experimenting. But I guess I hadn't looked at it through this lens before, so I'm having trouble coming up with thoughts on it.
Okay.
So go ahead, Aaron.
I was just gonna say it's similar to like how George R.R. Martin did in Game of Thrones, like the Dothraki and like other groups, where he's like bases them around actual real world people, and like how even like some of the events that happen in those books were like inspired by real world events. So obviously Leigh Bardugo probably took the same kind of way of thinking, like, use what already exists and just kind of use that as like a basis.
Because I mean, the Fjordans are kind of like your very much Europeans, blonde hair, blue eyes, like super fair. Exactly. And then, they're not painted with a positive light. But Kate was saying, look, it's not great, and Bardugo has actually received a lot of criticism about that. And that Shuhan feels a little Unit 731. What do you mean by that? Clever girl.
I didn't see it necessarily as the entire race. I guess I kind of separate the people of a nation from the government. This was more government exploitation. With the Fjordans, there was kind of a national brainwashing that went on. And I think that was true to a certain extent with the Shu. But the experimentation and stuff, that's a government thing. I don't know that because we have Tamar and Tolia.
Yeah, but I mean, do you think they're painted in a positive light?
Yes, very much so. And even Kuwait seems to be a positive figure. And his father wasn't a villain in any way. He was used because what he was trying to do was help his son.
Well, he was trying to help his son suppress his sort of Grisha ability so that he could survive. And they even made a comment in there where they're like, well, that's what the Shu would do. And Kuwait is explaining this, the less you use your powers as a Grisha, the weaker you will become. And so it's like, it's a testament that you need to constantly be using your powers to get that strength, and because you're living a semi-eternal sort of life. But like the fact that if you weren't using your powers and you showed signs of weakness, then that's what they would look for to capture you or to oust you. And that's full on. I just read what you said about Unit 731. Basically, it was about a covert biological and chemical warfare research development unit of the Imperial Japanese Army that undertook lethal human experimentation during the Second Sino-Japanese War of World War II. Holy hell. I've actually been listening to this book at the moment because I told you I finished the part 3 of this for the second time a couple of days ago. When I go for my morning walks, I need to listen to my book. I have been listening to Everything is Fucked, a book about hope by Mark Manson, who I think did The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. But it opens up about sort of like what went down in World War II, sort of what heroism really looked like, but also really saying that everything's depicted through hope. And if you, it's starting to kind of really explore the two types of your brain, thinking and feeling, and what happens if you think over feel, or if you feel over think, and the imbalance, or looking for balance. And that's really, really interesting. Yeah, I didn't know about that, Miss Necromancer, but I opted for ancient history over modern history in high school. So there are chunks of my history that I am not aware of at all. But yeah, I am squeamish, so I probably will not look into it. But yeah, it was something that really fascinating that I was hearing from it. There's a lot that I've been like really absorbing, and one of them is that at this current day, you know, the economy is the best it's ever been. Violence is down, deaths are down, like across the board for like everything. And that we're in the best place as a society that we've ever been in, and yet depression is like 80% up. You know, people experiencing depression a lot more, and the whole point of that was the better things are, the more you have to lose, and that's when sort of the imbalance can occur. It's really fascinating. Anyway, I've been listening to that. But the whole thinking versus feeling thing, you've got Kaz, who just he's suppressed his feeling and he's only thinking about thinking. And when you only allow thinking, you detach from emotional response. And so you don't realize that what you're doing is inappropriate or wrong or harsh. You know, you've got no emotional attachment to it. There was this conversation about an experiment that took place and like what frontal lobotomies were basically all about. And how feeling is actually really important. And I think it was like Tom Waits who says, I'd rather have a bottle in front of me than a frontal lobotomy. And that's because he'd rather cope with what it is to go through feelings than to not have to feel anything at all. But I just think that Kaz has just opted out of feeling to only lean into thinking. And the consequence of that is trying to, like, he pushes everyone away, makes people rely on him. He's very calculated. But the moment when they're in Smeat's house and the girl walks in, and that moment where there was no empathy, there was no compassion, there was no sort of like thought in his mind, he threatens quite violently this young girl to scare her into silence. And I think this is really interesting to learn about this character, because it's like, do you like him? Is he a good guy? Is he just a survivor? Is he like, where is he on the D&D sort of like alignment chart? Is he chaotic evil? Is he neutral evil? Is he evil? Is he chaotic neutral? Like, what would anyone like to kind of weigh in on Kaz's personality type? Yes, Aaron.
I kind of typed this earlier in the chat, but I think Kaz is somebody who feels more than he lets on. Like, I think he feels too much, especially given his upbringing, like losing his brother the way he did, having to use his body as a flotation thing to get to shore. Like, he's just overwhelmed with emotion. And I think he had to know, as a survival coping mechanism, go to cold logic and reason to get him through whatever situation, because he knows if he gives into his emotions, he will lose whatever he's trying to accomplish. So I think he even explained it in that scene where he's explaining to like Wyland, you know, I could have just snapped her neck, made it look like an accident on the stairs. I could have done these horrible things to her. Instead, I just threatened her and made her think I'm a monster rather than actually become one. So he took the lesser evil approach to that.
Which is still, but it's still pretty effed up. Yeah. But
absolutely. But I think because he knows, yeah, he knows he doesn't want to be that terrible of a person. So he chose like the best course of action that still got what he needed out of the situation. That's how I think.
Kat, you've got some thoughts on this. Did you want to jump in?
Yeah, I think I'm agreeing with some of the others saying true neutral, and I think I agree with that. I like Kaz as a character. He's a really well written character, and I love that about him. But he is not. He doesn't skew good. He kind of looks out for his own and himself, and acts in at least his best interest. And it's still kind of unclear if he even acts in the best interest of the people who depend on him and the people who have his back. And I think that, you know, that comes up with Inej and the doubt she feels that he would even come get her if she's no longer useful to him.
I think there's kind of an example of this when he gets Jesper's revolvers back for him, and Jesper is just effusive about his thanks, and Kaz just kind of shuts him down with, "What good's a sharpshooter without his guns?"
And you could just paint that picture with Inej being like, well, what good is the Wraith without her, you know, the ability to use her legs? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. He may care about people, but it's he's not ever going to show that side because it would make him entirely too vulnerable, and he's already been through that.
Yeah. And he detaches almost from them by just seeing them for their uses. You know, this is my sharpshooter. This is my Wraith. This is, I have them around for their purpose only. I was saying, because I was muted before, Avery, you were saying that you agree with the true neutral, that he just does whatever needs to be done?
Yeah, I agree with that. Because I feel like he, kind of what everyone else has said, like he kind of reads the situation and sees like, okay, I need to, do this to get my people out, and like he serves himself and sometimes the people around him if it benefits him. But he will do. He's not like outright evil, but he's not always good either. So he just kind of does whatever needs to be done, which I think is exactly what puts him right in the middle there.
Mm-hmm. Gibson, you make such a beautiful, we have a thought-provoking comment here. Yeah, he might have goodness at his core, but he's done his very best to bury it in sludge. Can I learn more about that?
Yeah, I just, at the heart of him, he's just this little boy who lost his father and then his brother in a very gruesome and violent way, and those were kind people with soft hearts who died, and to protect himself he's had to become the thing that's ruined his life. I think that there's a point, I don't remember where in the book, so somebody can check me if it's too late, where I think he does compare himself to Pekka.
He does, and he was just like, if I'm going to bring him down, I not only have to become him, but I have to be better than him.
Worse. Yeah, well, yeah, exactly.
Worse.
Better, worse.
Yeah.
Better at being terrible. Yeah.
Yeah. I have to best him at his own game, so I have to exceed what even he is. Yeah.
And that game is not a team sport. You don't get there by making friends or allies. You get there by stepping on other people. And I think that this is of course the only narrative that we have of him, but I think if we were able to see inside his head for the last 10 years of his life, this might be when he is starting to kind of come to terms with what kind of person am I.
Yeah. And I think they know that he, like, the way that they talk about his vengeance, like, even who's his patron, I forget his name, not Pekka, but
Per Haskell.
Thank you, Per Haskell. The comments that Per will make being like, there is just like the devil inside of you. And that comment is made a lot. Like Matthias is calls him demon, but there is just this absolute decrepit darkness in him. And that is revenge. He lost everything, and then he was taken advantage of. He lost all of his savings, lost his brother, like suffered through so much loss that the thing that gets him up every day is revenge. And his need for revenge completely supersedes and almost destroys his need for like Inej and feeling any sort of need for or worthy of love, because that revenge is just driving him so ruthlessly. But let's talk about Kaz and Inej. It was brought up in the comments. The thing is with Inej, like, She wants something that I don't think Kaz is able to give her, and that was addressed at the end of the last book. And we had this moment like, hell yeah, Nej, you're amazing. You're realizing that you do not have to beg for basic decency, and he's time and time showing you that he's not able to give you what you want, so you got to get the truck out of there. And Kaz being like about it all. But she has seen him fight for her. Even though he tries to suppress it, there are times where he will just be like, no, I want you to come with me. I want you, that moment. And, you know, she cares about him so much, but is so desperate not desperate, but it's just trying to get validation from him or any sign that, you know, he cares about her more than he's going to care about his revenge. But if you are told and shown your worthlessness time and time again, you start believing it. And that's what we discover with Inej when she's kidnapped and the mallet goes up and is threatened to break her legs beyond repair. And so with that one, oh yes, I love this one. The proverb says, Miss Necromancer in the chat right here, says, on a path of revenge, dig 2 graves, is so true with Kaz. He's salted the earth behind him on the road to destroying Pekka Rollins, so that when or if the revenge ever happens, nothing will ever grow in the land he left behind. So even if he survives, he killed anything worth going back to. Revenge is a final destination for Kaz. Oh, my goodness. Terry, this is the book that we're covering. This is the book we're doing the book chat on. Oh, this one? Bottom right corner. Yeah, this is a special edition of Name of the Wind. Isn't this beautiful? Isn't that it's so big, but it's so pretty. And so I put it front and center. I think I'm doing more book stuff with Pat Rothfuss too. Why do 2 broken souls seek each other out? Common sense tells you no. Interesting scenario. Oh, dude, trauma bonding. Trauma bonding's a massive thing. Those people connect over. It's called trauma bonding. It's self-explanatory in that. But there you go. But yeah, this particular moment where Inej has actually accepted that maybe he's not going to come for her, and that if she is broken and doesn't have the use, isn't useful for him, that he will discard her. And he all but kind of confirms that. And he has this internal battle where it's like, yeah, if she couldn't walk, I would put her out of her misery because she's no good to me. And then he kind of like bursts through that and he's like, no. Empathy, compassion, feelings. Let your feelings finally talk instead of your thinking, because your thinking is so detached and scary and lacking of consequence. It's so self-driven. But we see him lean into his feelings. And it was a beautiful moment. Kat, this was your quote, so I'm going to pass it over to you. Tell us this quote from the moment.
Oh boy. Okay, so the only comment I have on this quote is just me screaming because I love it so much.
Yes.
But it's when Inej finally tells him, I wasn't sure if you'd come because he could have broken my legs, and would I even been, worth anything to you at that point? And yeah, you were talking about that's the moment he also has the thoughts of, well, dirty hands would do this, but he eventually says, I would have come for you, and if I couldn't walk, I'd crawl to you, and no matter how broken we were, we'd fight our way out together, knives drawn, pistols blazing, because that's what we do. We never stop fighting. And it's just so beautifully written and said. I love it.
Yeah, so do I. When you started reading, I was like, whoa. Because like the way that the narrator read it, I think the narrator for Kaz is spectacular. And the way that he said it, I was like, oh my God, that was just so great. But he says, no matter how broken we were, we'd fight our way together. Because that's what we do. Like, oh my God, this is a guy who's only ever been able to say I. Like he's the bastard that found I in team, So that quote was just showing he gets these moments. He's able to, and I love that compartmentalization where it's like dirty hands is think, but Kaz can be feel, and Inej humanizes him. And he made a choice in that moment, and he chose to be vulnerable with her. And then she kind of just turns around and keeps walking because she's just not going. And this is what, I mean, I can hear Kate already being like, yeah, it's so great that she doesn't just drop everything and lunge onto him and hold him. She listens, she takes it in, and she continues walking. Like, what does everyone else think about that moment? Who else wants to weigh in on it? Because it's such a pivotal part of this book, in the first part anyway.
This part, it reminded me of, I think it was Not Another Teen Movie. I don't know if you've ever seen this, but this guy, he completely fawns over this girl this whole entire movie, which is played by Jennifer Love Hewitt. And
Can't Hardly
he
Wait.
writes this.
Can't Hardly
Pardon?
Wait. It's Can't Hardly
Yeah.
Wait, not Another
Oh,
Teen
sorry.
Movie. That's all right.
That's the parody of Can't Hardly Wait.
It is, yeah.
Close enough. But anyway, he fawns over her and gives her the note, and she's like, "What do you think I'm gonna do? Just take off my clothes and do you?"
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, it's like, don't you forget that these people have thoughts and emotions and other feelings? They're looking at it so one-sided, and then you're like, oh, well, you have to act the way that I want you to act because it's in my mind.
And because
But,
I have projected this entire fantasy onto you, and you need to go into it. Why do you think men have been like that? There's a lot of conditioning through a lot of pop culture through the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s that if you declare your love, it will be reciprocated. And I love that we are getting to this stage where it's like, just because you have these feelings doesn't, they're yours. And I'm not responsible for how you're feeling. And I don't feel the same way, and I don't have to. Yeah, I think that's a really great moment. Gibson, you were saying, I don't think Kaz would respect any other reaction from Inej.
Yeah, I think it's the previous book where Kaz mentions another young woman that he worked with the crows, where he wanted to be close to her, and she acted, her behavior was much more like Nina's, where she was a bit more aggressive and a bit more flirtatious and a bit more traditionally, like, behaved more traditionally feminine, I guess, than Inej does. And that combined with just the thought of touching her just really repulsed him in the end. And I think that if one thing that Kaz respects about Inej is that she's not messy. Like, she feels her feelings on the inside like he does. And I think that if she had, flung herself upon him and vowed her unending love, he would have been, I think that would have pushed him too far in the other direction.
Yeah, it's not who she
Neither
is
of
at
them,
all. Yeah.
Yeah. Neither of them are characters who, they say a lot more with their actions than with their words.
Yeah, I agree. I like that. Miss Necromancer's brought up such a great point with this quote. I would have come for you, and if I couldn't walk, I'd crawl to you. No matter how broken we were, we'd fight our way out together. Knives drawn, pistols blazing, because that's what we do. We never stop fighting. And Kate's kind of going, no, you never stop fighting. You're the one with this path for vengeance. You've created a team around you to keep that fight alive. And she's like, if I were Inej, I would ask, why would I want to fight forever? What about after the fight? What about fighting for others that can't fight for themselves, other than fighting for your own revenge? And that's such a great default that Kaz has set. He has set this standard that the default is to fight. And he's removing any other choice from that. Inej, she wants to fight for other people. She wants to stop what happened to her. So she wants to continue her fight. And it's to protect and save people, not for a personal vengeance. But that's so interesting that in this sense of sort of control, Kaz has always got control over everyone for everything. He doesn't do it through fear, in a way. He certainly doesn't do it through enough sort of validation or determining people's individual worth. But he's got enough sort of trust or respect, I guess, because he is so brilliant that people have learnt to sort of like trust him in a particular way. But that means that, yeah, he is in full control of this fight. I really like that. I like really breaking down that quote, because when we first read that quote, it was like, oh my God. And then it's like, wait a second. That's really, really cool. Avery saying, I agree, Gibson. They hold each other at arm's length, but because it's what they both need and they respect each other for that, despite their feelings making it confusing. Yeah, Inej has just, she was sold to the menagerie. I think that, we don't ever really talk about it, but, we did sort of in the first Six of Crows book. Kaz was like, you're a woman on my team. You have to look after yourself. You got to figure it out. And she did. And she had to make sure that she would fight her way out of being back in the same situation in the menagerie. The intimacy issues. Yeah, but she found her own way to fight back against sort of like patriarchal control in a particular way. Miss Necromancer, Inej's fight and Kaz's fight, to bring it back to D&D, is more like the way a paladin, Inej, comes towards the idea of a fight compared to a rogue. Absolutely. Kaz is such a rogue. He's just scheming, trying to get eye on the prize. Yes. Also, Kate, you asked earlier what everyone's alignment would be. I feel like we've spoken about this before. I always thought I was a little bit more chaotic than I am, but I also realize now that I fight for injustices. So if someone's being mistreated, I step in as like a regulator to be like, hey, that's not cool. Don't talk to her like that. That's unacceptable. And keeping sort of like an order. So I guess that's in a way lawful, which I don't know if I can associate with, but maybe I'm not chaotic. Maybe I don't know. I'm definitely not evil. I want to protect people too much. Neutral good. Okay, I could be neutral good. Neutral good. I mean, seeing that what Kaz is true neutral, I don't want any of that. I want to make people feel good about themselves whilst also sort of like championing my beliefs, removing injustices. Damn it. I gotta start sewing my superhero outfit, don't I? Hard as me! I will fight injustice! No, I don't know. Aaron, you said chaotic good. Would like to help people, but not always through conventional means. Chaotic good's a bank robber, yeah? I say chaotic. My brain with D&D is that chaotic good is Robin Hood, and lawful evil is the Sheriff of Nottingham.
To kind of clarify, I would say us Robin Hood, like Disney Robin Hood, where it's like you're the pure good guy. More like Men in Tights, where it's like I'm trying to do good, but I'm going to fail at it most of the time.
Oh, okay, I like that. SES also says chaotic good. Miss Necromancer, lol, cries in true neutral, or doesn't, because I also repress my emotions in an unhealthy way, like my fellow TN Kaz. Megamorn. Thank you, Chris. That's a great name from my pseudo hero. What is that called? Is that just like an altruism that's like gag inducing? Jimmy. I also like to make people happy, but also can be a little bit of a jerk for fun. So that's a little chaotic. Yeah. I think I can be a bit like that. Especially if it's to like curb an ego or something. I can play my jerk card, put people in check. Gibson, I got to jump out, but thanks for the stream. Yay. Thanks. I know we're 1 hour down and we haven't even gotten into Jesper and the relationship with the father, or Matthias and Nina. We haven't brought those up. Let me refer to the document and see where we're at with it all. We're all over the place, basically. Part 2. All right, the second part. So the first one we realize is Inej has been captured. They've got to get her back, and so they get the details from Cornelis Smeet. The second part is we've got to rescue Inej, so we're going to make Van Eyck think that we'll just walk in and try to get her back, when in actual fact they're going to take his pregnant wife. What did you guys think about this? Did you see it coming? Did you like the game plan? Is it interesting kind of seeing who's teaming up with whom and why? The fact that Nina and Matthias is getting split up because they've got sort of similar fighting styles. What did you guys think about this part? The Taking of Alice. Anyone? And how annoying she is. I actually laughed out loud in that moment. It was like, you know, I'd like to sing. Can I sing? No. Wyland's like, please, good Lord, no. And everyone's like, Kaz is like, no, I will get a headache. Do not let this woman sing. And Matthias, who's somehow all of a sudden showing the softest spot for pregnant women, he's like, okay, maybe yes, you shall sing. And that's where the true nightmare began. I lost it. I thought that was so funny. But again, everything that we are learning is about Van Eyck and who he is. And he's basically he's written off his first wife because he thought I guess he blamed her for producing like a spoiled, not in the case of too much money, but like something good has gone off. Spoiled. It's gone spoiled. It has been spoiled. Language. So fascinating. But anyway, he's blaming his the first wife, for producing a faulty heir. So he gets rid of both of those and starts again. He's dating a woman who's barely older than Wyland, who's 15. So our guess is that she's like 17 or 18, and he's like middle-aged or like 40s. Aaron did some amazing fan casting for Van Eyck. Originally you were saying Jason Isaac, but now David Thewlis would also work, who's Professor Lupin. Could be a really good one. I don't know. He was cool in Wonder Woman until he turned into Ares. Oh, here we go. Clever girl. The best way to steal a man's wallet is to tell him you're going to take his watch. That really great moment. Great quote. I'm loving that one. A good heist is like a good magic trick. You need to divert attention, says Kate. This is quintessential heist. Aaron, didn't see it coming, but should have. Decent amount of clues, but so focused on worry for Inej, you sometimes forget the tiny details. Can confirm on my re-listen. He was kind of like spelling it out, but because you didn't know what was going to happen, it wasn't clear at all. I like those though. Lisa says, I loved it. It just shows how smart Kaz is and how he's always a step ahead of people like Van Eyck. So there you go. You guys are liking this particular part of the heist. I agree with Aaron that you should have seen it coming, but you didn't, because there was a lot of the smoke and mirrors in this case was Inej. I'm just trying to think. We're also, whilst this is happening, we're dealing with Nina's withdrawals. So because we haven't really touched on Nina yet, let's do that now. Last we saw Nina, she was souped up. She was superpowered. And now we're seeing the effects of it. Can anyone relate to sort of like addiction in this sense, or the struggles of sort of like trying to get through something that could almost kill you? How did you think that talking about addiction in this case was handled? Also, like sort of saying and doing things that brought shame. I actually really liked the shame piece, because Matthias would keep saying, you're shameless, you're shameless. And I think that really struck a chord with her, because she's really embarrassed about her behavior. But not even, there's a difference between embarrassment and shame. Embarrassment was like, oh, I can't believe I did that thing. Like, I'm embarrassed that I did the thing. But then shame is, I'm bad because, like, I'm just bad. I did it. Or like, you know, it's a full ownership of the person who you are, instead of being able to isolate it as an incident. So I really liked Matthias and Nina being vulnerable with each other, sharing with each other, the dynamic that he's obviously there to help her. Once she's sort of getting better, wondering what this sort of like emotional and physical wall is up, because there's feelings there, but he won't act on them. What did you think about this blossoming relationship? Who wants to talk about Matthias and Nina in parts 1, 2, and 3? Opening it up.
I would like to say that I find it interesting, the relationship, because you know that they're like crazy for each other, but they don't say it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like they are too bound, very similar to like Inej and Kaz. They're too bound by their own insecurities or religions that they just cannot cross that line. They cannot see through the smoke and mirrors, as you said before. It's a very interesting dichotomy they have going.
Yeah, personal blocks. But I mean, opening this question up to everyone, if you're in that situation and you were a clique and this was your family, this is about crossing a line that you cannot uncross. Once you take that step, there's no going back. And I think because of that, that's why there is a lot of pause. That's why there's a lot of, oh, okay, that's it. So I get distracted by the chat, but Miss Necromancer is saying, embarrassing is accidentally kissing your friend while you're horse playing. Shame is thinking you'll go to hell because of it. Yeah, so it's like I did a bad thing or I'm a bad person. That's the differentiating factor between sort of embarrassment and guilt and then shame on that. Aaron, tell me about your definition of embarrassment and shame.
I'll just read the thing I made. Basically, embarrassment versus shame, I think, just comes down to a difference of your choices. Whereas embarrassment is like, something that happened that was kind of outside your control. That's like, it's just made it create an awkward situation, but you can laugh it off afterwards. Whereas something shameful, I think, is something that you chose to do that you probably knew deep down was wrong, but you did it anyway and you found justification for it. And then after it probably blew up in your face, you realize, oh crap, what did I just do?
Got it. My definition that I'm getting about embarrassment versus shame comes from a woman who clinically studies shame. Her name is Brené Brown. She's written about 5 different books on it, which I listened to all of lockdown. And so she talks about sort of the implications of shame, the differentiating pieces between embarrassment and shame. And it can literally be defined as simple as I did a bad thing or I'm a bad person, and not being able to separate those. And shame is usually conditioned sort of into you, like who's making you feel like you're a bad person? Why do you feel like your self-worth is in that place as well? But I think in this particular instance, like Nina she's such a thriver. She's not even like Kaz is a survivor. Nina is a thriver. She's able to kind of like adjust to situations. She knows her strengths, her assets, her capabilities. She knows she's beautiful. She knows that she's funny. She knows that she's strong. She loves dessert. Like she just owns who she is in such an impressive way. But I think, she also has never had to experience sort of like such a downfall or being so out of control or, I don't think she's really experienced addiction before. Yeah, she loves life to the fullest. And yet she's making decisions that are out of her control because she is withdrawing and she's saying and doing things that are not her. And so I feel like the choice in a way, and this is what addiction is a lot of the time, it's a disease. And so choice is removed a lot of the time from the action. And I think, she's looking back and she's just like, I'm really ashamed of what I said. And they were really hurtful things. It was kind of like pinpointing Matthias's loyalties, and it was shaming him, prodding him. It was using her sexuality against someone that she actually really loves and cherishes and cares about, but wanted to take advantage of him to get her way. And it was like so interesting, little words and phrases like, she explored using her hands, but she didn't want to kiss him on the mouth because she didn't want that taken away from her too. And I was like, damn, like that's super impressive. Like for her to know that limit and what line she would cross completely. But I think that that's sort of like, Matthias, who is so one-dimensional in the sense of like, I follow the rules, like he's lawful good. But that's perspective, isn't it? Because someone's lawful good is another's lawful evil, which we've exactly seen in this case. But I think I don't know if I can approve that, Kate. Now I'm gonna get the giggles because I've read it. Who says Papa Boner? Oh, that's amazing. Are we permitting it? All right, we're permitting it. Okay, cool. I do love that all she had to do this entire time was make Matthias Papa Boner as put on a fair isle vest. Yeah, the decor of the Fjöden women. Yeah, and he just like worships her. Oh, that's funny. Oh, I think I came into this stream with the wrong type of energy, says Devil Rai Sended. We're doing a book club. We're talking about two characters in the Crooked Kingdom, one who is very sort of just and the other one who is fabulous, I will say. I'm just going back through the chat. Oh, I'm seeing, hi, my internet's so ass I can only load audio, but oh my God, I haven't seen you in forever. What's up? Oh, I'm doing a book club now. There you go. Kate, you're talking about addiction. The thing about addiction too, especially with drug addiction, is that you are deeply ashamed of the things that you do to get the next high. But the lure of the high supersedes that shame. You hate yourself, but you don't care because you need it. And Clever Girl, you were saying earlier that she really, I love how Bardugo deals with so many sensitive issues: addiction, learning disabilities, trauma, physical disabilities. I completely agree. Racism. What else was handled? Classism? Yeah? All these sorts of things. I completely agree with you. Who wants to talk about sort of the relationship between Nina and Matthias once they've kind of gone through the addiction, and once she's like, okay, we got past that, but are you with me because you just made a pledge, or are you with me because you want to be with me? And I think Matthias finally kind of opens up again with this beautiful monologue about, I see it as a monologue because we've seen a show, but saying, he goes, yeah, I think that you were a disaster. I think that you were really bad. Like it was a disaster that we met. And she was like, oh my God, you're terrible at this. And he's like, and he's fumbling. And he's like, no. What I'm trying to say is like, you're the best disaster that ever happened to me. I was on this path. My life was decided, and you were like a tornado. You just came in and you destroyed the path that I was on. And I'm so grateful and glad for it, because without that, like, I wouldn't be the person that I really want to be. And you're a beautiful disaster. That's it. And you were the person that got me there, and I'm here because I choose to be, because I want to be with you, because you're all of these amazing things and all these qualities, and you've unbrainwashed me basically. But the thing that's stopping him again is like a social construct. It's the way things should be done. So he's so much about order. Like, this is the J in the Myers-Briggs personality, judgment. And judgment is, I need structure, I need order, I need to do it in a particular way at a particular time, and that's how it's always been done, and tradition is important, but this is what it's going to be. And then, yes, who's speaking? Kat, jump in.
Just in, to answer, about how do you feel about the relationship or whatever with Matthias, it's interesting to see somebody who started and is still struggling with all of his prejudice, turning into somebody with such a capacity for compassion.
Yeah.
He's not quite there, but we're kind of rooting for him at this point, or at least I am. I can't speak for everybody, and it's interesting to see how much better he can be when those prejudices are taken away.
There are a couple of moments where, like, in a conversation about Kuwait or about the shoe, like, immediately he'll be like, but no, we just can't hand this weapon back to the Grisha, who are also my enemy. And then it's like, and Nina's kind of like, for fuck's sake, I'm right here, And he's like, oh, give me a second to, like, stop being so hardwired with this line of thinking. But he's like making more and more of a conscious effort. But it is interesting. Like, Kate brought up a really great point about the sweater, the Fair Isle vest. And that is, he's so engrossed and entrenched in tradition. That is the thing. It's his values. His values are set in such a different way. But Nina's values are incredibly different as well. She is the P instead of the J. So J is judgment and P is perception. And P is more of like, I want to go with the flow. I don't want to make my mind up right now. I'd like to look at all my options before diving into a decision. I'm happy to just kind of be a little bit wifty-wafty in this moment. And I think that it's a really interesting dynamic to see together. A great example of this for those that are in the Geek Bomb community is Trisha Hirschberger and myself, because I am very much P and she is very much J. I guess this is the same for Gori and I as well with the way that we work. She's like, I'd like more structure. And I'm like, you can do that because I wouldn't even know how to do it if it hit me in the face. But Trisha and I work really well together when playing Dungeons and Dragons or tackling a conversation. I would rather play a game for the experience and to enjoy it. She would rather play a game for the challenge. So she will never look up a cheat sheet or a walkthrough. She will she will attack the problem at every single angle, and her enjoyment is being able to get through it. If I have a problem that is bothering me, that is an issue. I'm like, you are getting in the way of my fun. So I will look up the answer so that I can get through said problem and continue in my fun. And I would never be able to do what Trisha does, and she can't stand the way that I do it. But it's like, it's really, really interesting to see those dynamics. And it's nice also to know that I can see this from Nina's perspective big time, whereas other people will see it a little bit more from Matthias's perspective. But I'll ask the chat right now, what are you more? Are you more about structure and judgment and sort of like needing sort of more of a plan in place before you take the step? Or are you more of a, we'll figure it out as we go along? What's your personality type? Are you Team Nina or Team Matthias? Only in that way. Kate says, I'm INFP, so I like to weigh my options. I'm ENFP, but only just E, surprisingly enough. So Avery, you're like me as well. We're Team Nina. Kate's Team Nina. Aaron, I like to make it up as I go along. Team Nina. Rob says, right robot. I remember stealing the right robot. Oh, that's funny. Clever girl, definitely figure it out as I go. Ah. Jimmy, you're Matthias. You like the order, you like the schedule, you like the... Okay. Kat, I want to be the kind of person who can have structure, but I am way more figure it out as I go. Michelle says I am ENTP. Oh, I wonder what the difference between that with you and I then, the feeling and the thinking. Oh, you analyze, but I lead with my emotions. Interesting. You are like the more calm me. That's fun. I like making a schedule and then completely ignoring it. I love that, Cat. Disco Cover says, yeah, typically I come from the school of thought that if I can't do a certain thing, I will eventually look it up or go look up a walkthrough on it. I do not like to remain stuck or I will stop playing. Thank you, Disco Cobra. That is the right way, my way. But that is a way to look at it. Your INFJ. Oh, okay. Yeah, there you go. That's fun. But again, like Leigh's so clever. Like she thoroughly understands personality types, this kind of like thinking and feeling. My brother's writing a book at the moment and he's a really great storyteller. Like the story is amazing. There's great twists. He's done fantastic with world building. But I'm like, your interactions between characters and the why behind it all doesn't exist. I said, there's a lot of what, there's a lot of setup, but there's very little why. And the whys are what I think Leigh Bardugo crushes in here. It's like if she was to write sort of like a 30,000 word dissertation on the whys between these characters, why Inej and Kaz are good together, why Nina and Matthias are good together, why this works, why. It's all there. There is so much why. And I absolutely adore that. Lisa says, I always forget, but I think I'm an INFJ. That is a Team Matthias in a way. All right, cool. Does anyone want to talk about the first smoochy moment that we have? Because there's been a lot of backflip, backpack strap twisting and compliment on curlsing through Jesper and Wylan's furious blushing. There's been a lot of tell me that you care about me and that I'm worth something to you between Kaz and Inej. There's been a lot of You keep staring at my cleavage, but god damn it, you won't come over in here and plant a kiss on me, between Nina and Matthias. And we finally got some action. Was the payoff good? Who's going to chat to me about that? Why is my chat not team smooching right now? Let them smooch. Is that not the motto of this book chat? Thank you, Kat.
Well, it's going to be disappointing. I'm always happy about any smooching most of the time. However, I can't remember who has or has not smooched at this point in the book.
Very little
so
smooching,
I
if
cannot
any.
speak to that.
No smooching.
Okay. Well, wish there was more then. Could always be more smooching.
Okay. Thank you for talking me off the ledge there. Also, STS, thank you so much for gifting Avery Adventurous a sub in the Twitch community. That's really sweet. Thank you for that. Miss Necromancer, it's funny because I thought that they'd already kissed. If I were one of the crows, I would have been like, fucking finally. Yeah, just God. And it's like, it's talked and commented on so much. It's like, oh, you guys have papers that state that you're siblings? Good Lord. Like, you can carve the tension between you two. Oh, Lisa said, I'm sorry I missed it. I'm all about the smooching. Haha. Yeah, girl, I know. I've seen your book read list. Good. Michelle says, it was a finally moment for sure. Yeah, these two just need to sort it out. I also think that they're the kind of couple where it's like their attraction is so deep and they are just absolutely so besotted and smitted with each other, but they will argue because there is a difference in their values and they're both stubborn enough and passionate enough to fight about the things that mean something to them. Hey, STS is gifting another sub. To Lisa. Lisa, I'm still kicking myself from before. I just hope you know that. Oh, that's sweet. So now you guys have access to some sweet emotes. So if you go to the little emote button in the chat, you can, you can post these ones. This bloody face that I seem to do all the time. Avery, Matthias being super embarrassed with Zoya and Jenya interrupted them was hilarious and adorable. The fact that he didn't even know that he'd lifted her up in the throes of passion. I thought that was a really brilliantly comedic but wonderful moment written by Leigh, where it's like, you're overwhelmed that it's happening, but there was also like incredibly funny moments through it all. It was good. I found that part really funny, that it was essentially, it's too hard to forge other documents, so stop smoldering over each other for 5 minutes. The horniest siblings outside of King Charles. What? Kate, why can't you co-host a show with me so that when I laugh this hard, you can keep running it? Oh, yeah. Yeah, they are bringing the absolute horniest moments for sure. The thirst is real. That's great. What book is it, says Adam? What, for research purposes? Oh, God. Gory spent that entire time taking the test. INFG. I could have told you that. You're 100% an INFJ. The J part, yeah. IN, intuitive? Yeah. Because that's the thing, like you and I, we get along with every single part except the how we tackle things, which, yeah, is the order or the whatever. I just don't know how to not whatever. I make spreadsheets. My Google Docs are usually very well formatted, but I'm also doing it an hour before we go live. Not great with that. Horny fake siblings. Is this Shadow and Bones? When was the fake siblings for that? I can't even remember. That book was so far away. Jasper and Wyland. Do we want to talk about Jasper's unveiling of his parents? Like, his parents are well and truly in this. Nina's parents, we know nothing about. Kaz's parents, we kind of do, but they're not in the picture. Wyland's parents, we know all about now. And the lies and the treachery behind it all. Who else have we got? I said Nina. Matthias's parents, yeah, we found out that he was had a lot of sisters and his mum was pregnant a lot. He had a big family. So we know a little bit about them. Will they be in the picture? Probably not. So yeah, learning about Jesper's parents was really cool. So now we have like both Wylan and Jesper's like lineage and how they are becoming who they are. It sounds like I'm going to tackle one thing before I forget all about it, because we'll go into Mama and Da. But is Jesper an addict? Is his gambling and throwing himself into danger a response from not using a consequence of not using his fabrication Grisha powers? Because remember how when Kuwei was saying you will get sick if you don't use your powers, and Jesper's like, I'm really happy, I'm really fine, I love life, I've never been ill a day of my life. But we're actually staring literally the demon down the eyes of addiction. Kat.
Yeah, I think we sort of touched on this last book club or the one before, where yeah, this seems to be kind of like he's a little bit of like an adrenaline junkie, or he he needs that rush, and I know that we all kind of speculated on if that is because he's not using his well, we didn't quite speculate on it then because we didn't know.
Yeah, we didn't know.
But but
it
now
was me
that we
trying to
do
make
it-
sense of it. It was like, this is a guy who's close with his family, who grew up on a farm, who by all accounts is great, but his addiction is ruining his life. And I was like, it just doesn't it doesn't explain why he was sort of spiraling in that particular way. And even now we've discovered Wylan being like, what would you do with the money? Are you going to leave and go back to the farm? And he's like, no, I'm staying in Ketterdam, this festering, addiction fueled kind of hellhole, because this is what I need. And it's like, it's his sickness. It's not using his powers. I wonder what happened, because he has used his powers a couple of times, the end of last book. I wonder if there's been more sort of correlations between when he's used his powers and when he's needed a gambling fix. Michelle's saying Jesper's definitely self-medicating with gambling and thrill-seeking, which seems to have developed into a full addiction. Aaron, you want to weigh in on this as well?
Yeah, so I was kind of agreeing with your kind of assessment, where it's like it was already established, like like with Alina in previous series, where it's like she was always very weak and sickly, and the moment she started to use her power, she became very vibrant. Her appetite, her basically energy levels just went up. And with Jesper, is like he's already so full of energy, you think he was like on cocaine already or something like that, or just some kind of thing that just keeps him on all the time. But then, yeah, he doesn't use his power. So, yeah, the whole assessment that his gambling addiction, his adrenaline addiction, like, that's probably just another way for his body to cope with the lack of using his abilities. It's almost like just the early warning sign, like, hey, you need to use this or this is going to keep happening.
Which is really interesting, because it's like it's reestablishing that addiction is a disease. It's not necessarily sort of like a personality trait or a life choice. It's met in the same family of sickness.
It's like that what's the thing with like with video games or something like that? It's like that quick reward thing. I forget what like the terminology is, but it's like with gambling, it's like you hear like the the lights going off, the sounds, the bells, the whistles, and all that stuff. It's like it's that quick high of adrenaline, like excitement getting through you. Yeah, and you're conditioned to I mean, it's all a psychological manipulation, and it's all a purpose, like the flashing lights, the getting a win every now and then, and that high, and holding on to that. We were talking about Kate, was talking about a really great example of the Judah high, which was and hi to Thelza, by the way, who's just joined the chat. Hello.
it's what you're willing to do to get that high again. And you could do bad things, but it's never going to outweigh what that high will give you, which is super interesting. I didn't get that. I didn't pick that up the first time around. It was only the second time around where I was like, wait a second. The missing piece of like, yeah, this is a personality trait that doesn't make sense. And then it's like, oh, this is literally his sickness. And just like Grisha powers showing up in really different ways, like a fabricator is completely different to an inferni, which is kind of different even to like a squaller or a tide maker. Like it surfaces and shows itself and manifests in very different ways. Teaser. Oh, I see it. Oh, the Isa. Now I have found every single way to say your name. So we went through that together. Yay. But I think that's really interesting, where it's like the flip side of that. If the power shows itself in vastly different ways, then the negative consequence could also show itself in vastly different ways. And I love the delusion that Jesper has with that. I've never been sick. I'm full of energy. I've got such a, insatiable appetite for life. And it's like, bro, you have been in the shitbox with Kaz so many times. You nearly caused the mission to be, unraveled. You are a liability and you cannot stop. You put your guns on the table. Like, I think that's fascinating. But let's talk about Jesper's dad and mum. Dad seems to be like a really cool, simple dude who's a little bit naive. He puts a lot of trust in Jesper. Do we want to talk about Com a little bit? I know that earlier, Miss Necromancer, you said about, I can talk now and I've got a thought about Jesper and his powers. Great, because I've got a couple more questions for you. So jump on. Tell me about your thoughts.
It's just something that I kind of just realized, that, like, obviously Jesper doesn't use his powers as a safety mechanism because Grisha are hunted, right? It's also the only thing he has of his mother. She was a Grisha too, and he got that power from her. So in not using it, it's another way to deflect. If he doesn't use his powers, he doesn't have to miss her and use the same power that she had that killed her, because she wasn't killed by like hunters or anything. She died using her powers, like trying to suck poison out of someone.
In a self-sacrificing way. Yeah.
Yeah. So him not using his powers isn't only because it's keeping him safe from like slavers. It's keeping him safe from facing that she's gone.
Mourning her. Yeah, but then but the opposite of that though is that she taught him how to shoot. And then he actually claimed that as his identity. And I thought that was such an amazing moment. And Aaron, you were talking about, we need a whole book on this woman just from her description. She's a Zemini woman who was Grisha, but then said, no, it's not Grisha, I'm blessed, which I love. Again, that's like a Nina-ish kind of take on life, where it's like, no, you don't get to define me. I get to celebrate me. And I think that's so cool. But this is
also,
yeah, Kate, go.
Also about like what you were just saying about like she isn't a Grisha. She's blessed. There's a lot of things about Black spirituality that were pushed down because of, white oppression. But that's a thing where it's like, they have like their healers and their natural magics and like their own rituals and stuff that are separate from what we try to label them as. So I thought it was really interesting that they put that in there, where she is a Black woman character, that like Ravkins, who are like white European kind of like people, label it as Grisha, but she's like, nah, it's like our own, like that's just the white man's word for it.
Yeah, and they've got their own set of rules about this. And what does she choose to do? Help others, not live in fear, celebrate it. And like it ends up killing her, but that's because she was saving young girls from poison. This woman sounds so fantastic, and the way that Com was besotted by this woman, put the farm in her name, because he was just like, I wanted to win her over because I was so in love with her and I wanted to show her just how much I did love her. And then the way that they would sort of argue, because he was a bit overprotective of her, and then how, we stand a man who loves a woman taller than him. Yep, he would lean up to kiss her. But, the way that they would resolve arguments was through, in a way, trust and love. Instead of being like, no, you're wrong. It was just like, you know what? That's not a worry that you need to have. Let's let that one go. We don't need to have this cause negativity with us. I know what I'm doing and let me handle that. And you do your thing and you handle that and we'll be fine. And I really liked that. But yeah, Colm is just like a really sweet, decent dude who, as Kaz kind of learns more and more, is ripe for the picking when it comes to a target. You know, this guy is a pigeon with wings. Oh, great question as well from Kate. Is this the healthiest relationship in all of the Grishaverse? I think so. Happily married, living on a farm, living their best lives. The fact that, again, the gender norms are really switched. Like, she's bringing the masculine energy. She's teaching her son how to shoot guns. She's also teaching him how to explore his powers. You know, the fact that he was just like, he looks at her, he reveres this woman, you know, when he's talking about her, or when we learn about her, he'd be like, she would make bread rise by looking at it. She could wipe a stain out just by pushing her thumb over it. Like, she could do so many great things, but she did it in secret. But she allowed it to be our secret and to be like, you know, don't let your father know about this because we don't want him to worry. But these are things that you can do as well. I'd really love to know the fabricator energy between guns and it being metal and being a fabricator. Like, are you able to manipulate the metal in any way? And is that why he is an incredible sharpshooter? Because a great example from this, from Shadow and Bone, is when, keep reading, Maude. Okay, I'm glad I'm onto something. But remember when at the beginning of the rise of rain, ruin and rising, I've just like learned a whole new set of names and people that it's like Mal had to hit a target. Mal had to hit something through the bloody ceiling to let the light in, but he had a target and it was really important that he hit it. So what did he do? He used his powers by throwing a beetle in the target, so he tracked the beetle and could land the shot. So with that kind of LORE law set in place and law of, you know, magics, I'm guessing that that's exactly what we're dealing with Jesper. But going back to your point, Kate, of not wanting to use his powers because he doesn't want to sort of like remourn or think, you know, miss his mother, the guns thing kind of counteracts that slightly. But it's a strange relationship. Like, this is, I think this is the fact that he's not using his powers, but his choices is, his addiction is getting away from a lot of reason and logic. Like, he doesn't want to go home and live his life out with his father, who by no means has done anything wrong, and their relationship is great, but the need for the high is so much stronger. Avery, do you want to jump in and talk about that? I think it's interesting how Colm cares about Jesper so much that he actually ended up hurting him in his attempt to protect him. Let's chat about that moment.
Yeah, so kind of like that whole like parents genuinely believe that they know what is best for their children, and like sometimes they're right but sometimes they're wrong. And Colm, he cares about Jesper so much, and because of what happened to Jesper's mother, like he fears that that Jesper, like, using his powers is going to cause more harm than good. He's terrified that he's going to lose his kid. But by encouraging him to hide it for his whole life, that is kind of what has led Jesper down this path. And I feel like if Colm had like listened to Jesper a little bit when he was younger and encourage him to hide it like from other people, but maybe still use it, it would have led Jesper down a different path. But and Jesper recognizes the fact that Colm has caused him harm. And yeah, it's one of those things where it's like he genuinely means well. He did not intend to hurt Jesper in any way, but he did, and he has to acknowledge that.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and that overprotective trope is something that we are seeing a lot of. We saw it with Kaz and Inej. You know, he wanted to. He didn't want her to do the retcon. He was like, "We'll do it together," and she's like, "Are you kidding me? Sit down. You're not in a position to do it. My legs are fine. this is what I do. This is literally my job. Let me do my job. And she outsmarted him. And I loved that little moment where he had someone finally get one up on him. But I hear you with that. Yeah. Matthias being overprotective. It's, something that we definitely see a lot with this. Clever Girl, did you want to jump in and say about Com's history and why he's so overprotective?
I hope it's not too noisy here.
It's okay.
One of the things, and I may be getting ahead of myself, but maybe it was back in Shadow and Bone when, what was his name? The guy who had Oncat, he was talking about how they treated people how they treated Grisha in the Wandering Isle. And it was pretty horrific. So Colm came from the Wandering Isle. And so even though the Zemeni seemed to be more accepting of the Grisha, he has that mindset. And so he's going to be super overprotective to try and protect Jesper from that.
What an astute observation. That is so good. And that is a testament to Leigh Bardugo's world building as well. Wandering Isle is where it's kind of like, I guess you're Irish, where the red hair and the freckles and but Grisha, you're right, treated him terribly. What was Oncat's owner's name again? What was his name? And he was the one... No, he's not the one that freaked out and sold them out.
Started with an H, and that's
it
all I
does
can
start
remember.
with an H. I can't either, and it's really it's killing me. Someone will figure it out, and we'll all celebrate, and the itch will be scratched, and we can move on from it. Is there anything else we haven't really tapped into here? We haven't really spoken about Wylan Harshaw. There it is, Kat. Nice. Oh, the cameos with Zoya and Jenya. Yes, Kate. Talk us through this. So Nina has tried to add onto Kaz's plan, and that is, can we please remove the Grisha from Ketterdam, because obviously shit's going down, and if they can smell us out, we really need to rescue and save them. And he said, fine. And so Matthias and Nina are on the mission and Inej, I believe, are trying to round up the Grisha to be able to move them to safely to Ravka. How did everyone find the cameo? Zoya's back again, and so is Jenya. I like Jenya. I know you guys are Zoya sympathizers. She's such a shitty person. Like, she is the absolute opposite of who I would be and what I would say in these situations, which is, here is a woman who's gone through hell, so let's berate and belittle her and humiliate her straight away. But Kate, I know you like Zoya, so jump on. Let's talk about this moment. How was it with Zoya and Jenya? Let's chat cameo.
Well, I don't know if I like Zoya yet. Like, she's one of those characters like Nesta in Court of Thorns and Roses.
You know I can't stand Nesta.
No, but they're very similar characters in that they start off as very unlikable, and that's by design.
Yes.
And don't ever become quote unquote likable. Like, they're not sympathetic, kind of, cuddly, warm, root for the hero kind of characters. They have, like, they're very unsympathetic, but there's still likability in being unlikable. It's something that has to be earned through character development.
It's just...
With Shadow and Bone, if it had stayed the way it was in number 1 the entire way, no saving Zoya as a character, because she was just a one-dimensional, like, mean girl trope. But as Bardugo's writing style grew, got to kind of see that's like, yeah, she's not a nice person. She's a bitch. But there's, like, layers there that are fascinating and interesting, and it makes her an interesting character to read. It's the same. I put her in the same sort of category as characters like Joffrey in Game of Thrones, where he's a terrible person.
Yeah.
One of my favorite characters because it's fascinating.
Okay. And Avery and Clever Girl are saying you'll like her more in King of Scars. So just like, you know. But Kat, you and I need to duke it out with Nesta slander. I am not a Nesta stan.
Did you finish A Court of Silver Flames?
Yeah. And it's like you were so horrible for so long, and it's like I don't even think she should have been rewarded with Cassian.
But she grows. She grows, but doesn't compromise who she is.
But it's like saying to someone, "Oh, she's really nice once you get to know her." It's like, "Oh, so all the people that don't know her just get to have that lovely, awful, cruel, catty exterior." Yay. It's like I don't want to have to put in the work for someone to try and get there if their exterior is so awful. Like I don't invest, you know what I mean? I actually met someone really quite recently, and I'm learning that like she's actually quite nasty and cruel. And you're just like, why? Why is that a choice that you make? I don't speak that language. I don't get it. It's okay to hate Nesta. She's a bitch. We would not be braiding each other's hair anytime soon. And I would totally try to steal her man. Just saying. Maybe that makes me just as bad as her, though. Oh, no. She doesn't make it easy to like her, and if I met her in real life, I'd hate her guts too. But as a book character, I like her. Yeah. It's interesting because it's like there's so many different types of characters that it's like who's kind of in your perspective, who's speaking how you would speak, who's saying what you would say, who's asking the questions that you would ask. And a lot of the time with like female protagonists, they're either too garish and just like hard hitting and has something to prove that I'm like, all right, just chill for a second. Or they're a little bit sort of like vanilla vague where it's just like, go on, like have an opinion about this. In this particular book though, there are so many characters and so many different types of people. Who do you relate to the most? That's the question that I've got for everyone. If you're on chat, feel free to unmute and let me know. Adam, I never learned to read.
I would say that I relate the most to what's his name? Wylan. I'm not
yeah, I see that.
Because I'm not really a witch. I wasn't from a rich family or anything like that, but you know, it's all about expanding the way that you live your life. You know, you were taught one way, and then you have to unlearn that and relearn it.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like you're living two lives.
Yeah. You had one that you were taught, and then one you chose to learn. Yeah, I completely agree with that. That's really an astute observation too. Thank you, Adam Vision, for subbing for 7 months, and Da Vinci for subbing for their 7 months. Adam, if you can't read, then book club's going to be pretty tricky for you. And then the more we talk about Nesta, the more we realize that this is a series that we need to read. That would be fantastic. Oh, that's why audiobooks exist. Good point, Kat. Sorry. That is exactly what I should have said, but I was just making fun of Adam making his joke. Yes. Actually, that's why I really liked Clubhouse, because I would do book discussions with blind people. And they'd be like, we really love being able to talk about it because we can't read, so we can't look up things online. We can only talk to people about it. And I was like, man, the world's really cool in those particular ways. Adam Vision is Wylan. Confirmed. So Jimmy says he's Wylan. Who else has a character that they relate to the most, and why? I'm looking for someone to unmute to contribute. Kat.
They're all pretty different from me, but I think I can feel most personality-wise, I guess, with Nina. But yeah, they're all pretty different from who I am as a person, but I think mostly Nina.
Yep, I love that. Kate, do you want to tell everyone who yours is?
Unfortunately, I think out of these characters, I'm the most like Kaz, and that's not a good place to be. Just
That's so funny.
see too much of the same repressed trauma growing itself into you until it comes out as a cancerous tumor.
The fact that you are fighting cancer at the moment, though. Oh, Darcy's here. You're
I'm
in
free.
remission?
I'm free. Cancer
When did
free.
that happen? When did that happen?
Well, so far so good. I have to get a second scan, but they removed the tumor and it was self-contained.
Oh my God, that's amazing. Oh, that's so fantastic. I'm so happy to hear that. Oh man, so many congrats. That's rad. And it better stay that way. That's really cool. Darcy, we're talking about...
so I don't want to lose any more organs.
No, that would suck. And I don't want that either. And I think you're a champion for getting through this. And this is great. And you know what? haven't finished the book series yet, but maybe the Kaz thing could be a good thing. I don't know how it ends up. But everyone's like, fuck yeah, congrats in the chat. Yay. Who else has a character that they relate to the most? Darcy, I was talking about you before, by the way. My brother's in the chat, the one that's writing the book, where I was like, great storyteller. He needs to learn the whys between the characters. And Darcy, we've spent nearly 2 hours talking about character interactions and development and how great this author is about discussing the whys. And it's like really understanding personality traits. Clever Girl made an incredible comment before where it's like she tackles physical disabilities, learning disabilities, racism, addiction. Well, there was a bunch. But she's tackling so many different things in such amazing ways because she's such a proponent of show, don't tell. Have you written any more of your book, Darcy? Let me know. Because if you do need a case study group of people that... I've told Darcy, I was like, I'm your target demographic for this book and I run a book club and this is what we talk about and like, you know, I know what I'm talking about. I added 1.7 thousand words after your feedback. Oh, that's cool. That's exciting. Did you kill half your characters because they're unnecessary? I'm proud of you, Dart. I really am. One of the feedback that I gave Darcy is, and I'm going to ask the question and I want to hear everyone's responses. What onomatopoeia noise would you type or would you write? What would it sound like? What would it be for two wooden swords hitting each other? What would the onomatopoeia for a repeated strike against like practice swords sound like? Write it. Clack, clack, clunk, clang. This is interesting. Clack, clack, tonk. Top, Michelle. Tack, tack, clack, clack, conk. So it's quick. He's saying there's like a staccato behind it. One person has gotten my suggestion. Clack, clack. Clack's pretty good, Dart. Darcy had tat, tat, tat. But I was like, that's almost like a tisk or a ahem, ahem. Tink is for metal. I get that. Tink, tink, tink. It's the wood. The clack. Clack's pretty good. Oh, they're all removed. Oh, well, maybe this is... Tat, tat sounds like gunfire. Interesting. I said thwack. So Michelle and I are completely on the same page with that. Spelling and all. Thwack. There you go. But this is the kind of stuff that we'll talk about. What kind of wood are we talking about? Like a thick plastic, like a strong plastic sword for training. Anyway, Darcy, we're also talking about what your personality type is. So if you know your Myers-Briggs, let me know. It's whatever doesn't get along well with mine, I think. Darcy and I think in very different ways. Darcy's, I think, more think and I'm more feel. Hey, Kat did hers. INFP. Yeah. Thwack is more with blunt objects. If it's a quick thwack, thwack, tat, tat. Interesting. Okay. What's Oars, Darcy? AWES. Ours? What are you talking about? Now we are back in high school creative writing class with the class exercise. Oh, awesome. Oh, you can write the rest of that word. That will help. So we're doing personality types. The INFP, the P, I thought it was perspective, but it's a P word. It is prospecting, prospect. Looking at your prospects instead of needing, I don't know. You're asking a fellow Australian to not shorten a word, give up your passport, Maude. We don't short awesome to Oz. Oh, that's funny. The mediator is what it's called. I'm the campaigner, the ENFP. So it's the mediator that's just a little bit louder. Does anyone else have a character that they relate to the most? Mine's Nina. I absolutely relate to Nina the most. How she handles it. I don't know if I'm as flirtatious. I've never flirted with a pair of shoes before in my life. She's a little bit more flamboyant than I am. But like as far as her emotions being outweighing her thinking, sort of like self-worth, like knowing who she is, that is what I would relate to the most. People on mics, who's got one? Who has a character that they relate to the most? Aaron, clever girl? Yes, Aaron.
I got not that I'm completely with him. Jesper,
I
who
called
I would
it.
relate to the most in this.
Everyone who has one, I'll have it in my head and I'll think of it. But yes, Jesper. Yes, keep going.
Mostly in the fact that it's like unless I have a task to focus me, my mind will wander, and it like he did. Like he even explained, like when he's in university, his mind would wander. It'd be so hard to get task focused. That's why he got led to the gambling dens, and why that risk reward thing, drew him in. So it's like, unless I have something to focus me, my mind will wander. I will daydream. I even learned that through the personality test I took, which was the INFP T1 that Kat and I both share. We posted on Discord.
Yeah.
So that's why I relate to Jesper the most. Not with the gun shooting, but the wanderlust kind of thing.
Yeah, I like that. Clever girl, you have said that one of your sons is like Jesper, but I remember hearing that another one of your sons was like Wylan, if I wasn't mistaken.
Yeah, I've got one son who always struggled with reading. He's always felt really dumb about it, but he's so smart in so many other ways. He can, from a very early age, he could take things apart and put them back together. But I have another son who, he's kind of all over the place. ADHD, I guess, but he's also just maybe a little crazier than Jesper. But he always kind of wants to be out there.
Got it. So just like doesn't actually have like a path or a direction, but is just willing to run in any direction just to explore and see what it's like.
Yeah, pretty much.
Who do you relate to the most?
I think one of me.
Yeah.
Oh, geez, I'm not sure. Yeah, I'd really have to think about that. Maybe Colm.
I love that. Clever girl, every time you talk, I want a hug. I want a hug. I want a big hug.
I would love to hug you, Maude.
Aw, that's the best. Can anyone tell that I'm missing my mum? I'm really homesick. Yeah, big time. But thank you for being my pseudo mum in here. Hugs are nice. Yeah. Avery, I'm not sure who I am the most. Nina, who's who I am in my head, but I'm way too quiet, so I'm probably more of a Wylan. You can be a wiener. Don't clip that. What's the other way of that? I cannot for the life of me think of the other. Nylon. Ah, dear. A nylon. Josh, thank you. 7 months. You're on a 6-month streak. What? Thank you. Happy Mortiversary to you too. Thanks for dropping by while I call someone wonderful a wiener. Oh dear, Avery, I don't mean it at all. I'm sorry. But yeah, you can be a little bit of both. We got a Colm in here. This is great. This is a fantastic chat. That is time though. That's okay. I didn't think. I just saw WINA and I said it. You can actually see the half second where I'm like, wait a bit. Wait a minute. But that's all the time we have for discussing parts 1, 2, and 3 of Crooked Kingdom. This book here, I can't get into focus. Probably happens after I start laughing a lot. Thank you for joining me as always. Thank you, Twitch chat. Thank you, Discord call. If you are reading these books and you want to get in on that, we do this book club twice a month. And then we all have an after show where we chat. Oh yeah, perfect. Yep, absolutely. An after show that we do for Nerdist Book Club as well. So this is a tight-knit book community. We technically cover 2 books every single month. The first half of the month is for this. The second half of the month is for the Nerdist book, which is Cemetery Boys. We can put, I think, maybe, do we have like we can put a link in #reading for the Goodreads of that one. But Cemetery Boys, I've got it. I can't remember who the author is. Aidan Thomas did that one. So, oh, wrong book. There is another one called Cemetery Boys. You're exactly right, Gory. If you haven't started the book and it's within a particular window, you can get a refund on that one. But Aidan Thomas is the one that we're doing. Yeah, but we've got to finish this book. Your homework is to finish Crooked Kingdom. I'll see you this time, 5 p.m. PT next week. Hopefully joined by Rachel to talk about Crooked Kingdom. And then if you haven't already got King of Scars and then Rule of Wolves, they will be the next books that we cover for July and August. Where are we at? Today's May. June and July. Whoa. Okay, getting ahead of myself. What is time? Oh gosh, I'm so far ahead. Yeah. What of Stars? No, it's The King of Scars by Leigh Bardugo. And this is following Nikolai's books, apparently. So that technically, that's what I thought. Technically, it is June. We're all over the place. What the truck is happening? This is June's book. Okay, I was right. This month, though, the 16th and the 23rd, because we've got 5 Wednesdays in this month, the 9th will be covering Crooked Kingdom parts 4, 5, and 6, the second half of the book. The 16th of June, we have off, and that's so you can read Cemetery Boys. The 23rd, I'm trying to do something book-related on Patrick Rothfuss's channel. It is a tentative hold. We will see. And then the 30th of June will be Nerdist covering Cemetery Boys. So there you have it. That is what June looks like. That will mean July 7 will be the first half of King of Scars. Yep, King of Scars. The 14th of July will be the second half of King of Scars. The 21st we will have off, and the 28th will be the Nerdist choice. Yes, I say June. June. How does everyone else say June? June and the book June. I get that. Okay. Thank you so much to everyone. Does anyone have any final words that they want to say in Discord? A final thought? A little spoiler? Something to anticipate for the second half of the book? Yes, Jimmy?
My final thought is just take your time with the book.
Okay.
And enjoy each word. Okay. Listen wise or read wise, because I think it moves quite well.
Okay. I mean, there's only 3 of us that haven't absolutely obliterated and finished this book right now, so you're just addressing Kate and Aaron and myself.
Well, last time I didn't do so well, so I'd like to make sure that I held my tongue with my words.
Yeah, it was like, I'm sorry, Jasper's a Grisha. You're like, yeah. Oh. Thank you for no spoilers this time. I very much appreciate it. Does anyone else have any final words before we bow out? All right. thank you so much for this particular book club. Everyone have a fantastic rest of the day. Thank you for everyone for joining in on this. I'm so excited to finish this book. I'm absolutely loving this series. And it's a pleasure having a community of people to talk about it with. Thank you, everyone. Oh, wait. Gory, can you help me? We have a raid. We got some raiding to do, huh? What am I doing? Can you do that, Gory, or should I jump on? Because at the moment, I'm not even able to type at the moment. Ciao, Al. That should be our official sign-off, huh? Ciao, Al. Ciao, Al. Redeem the raid. Yeah, we got it. No, we already had that from Kat. Kat, could you write it in again? Kat, what was the name of it? Sathari. All right, I'm on it. Sathari. Hey, everyone, this is a book club community thing, so if we can drop on into this raid and say a big hello and support from Geek Bomb Book Chat and send some love. Oh, we got the same headphones. Ooh. Wait. Something went wrong. Try running that quick action again. Okay. Start. What? Gory, is it working for you? Are you doing it? It's not letting me. I hope not everyone has bailed and we can do this. I'm trying to do it and it's just like saying no. Start the raid. Nope, something's going wrong. Ugh. Well, no, you spent your points. We need to have this happen. It would be really nice to get Sathari's views up. Gory, can you get it? Can everyone stick around so we can say hi to Sathari? Even if it's just for 2 minutes. Yeah, why? All right, I'll keep trying at it. But otherwise, can everyone head over to SATHERIE? Drop into their stream right now. I'll do the same thing, and we'll say a big hi there, and we'll hang out for a little bit. Sound good? All right, let's do that. I'm sorry that it's not working. We are getting errors. But we'll see you next week, 5 p.m. PT. Bye.